Hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you very much for joining us. What a wet weekend it was around Canterbury, and the rain is still falling. We've got the very latest on the big low that is covering New Zealand. On today's wind map, this shows air pressure as well, and you can very clearly see the large area of low pressure around New Zealand. But there are two sort of interesting parts to this map that I'm quite focused on. One, this small low coming into the Auckland area. We're going to show you that in a moment with the rain radar. And the second one is this other little low down here in the Canterbury area moving up towards Cook Strait. It's got a burst of wind around it, but it's also part of the driver for pulling in all that moisture-rich air and dumping all that very heavy rain across Canterbury. So more is on the way, but this is a very big low, but it's got sort of smaller lows like eddies, if you like, in the system, and that is making for a little bit more complication in some areas. We'll try and break it down for you to try and make sense of it. This is the setup on Sunday. What caused the flooding in Canterbury? So there is the big low and the clockwise motion going around it, but it's pulling down all this moisture-rich air from Fiji, from Tonga and Samoa, and it's pulling it all the way down like that and into New Zealand. It's a little bit like several lanes of traffic coming into a motorway, and when it gets to Canterbury, all lanes down to one because of the Southern Alps holding it all through there. So that's the reason why we saw that flooding yesterday. Here's the latest rain radar, at least when we recorded this on Monday morning. We've put it into a rock loop, so it goes back and forth, back and forth. What you can see is the heavy rain has now become more focused around Banks Peninsula, Christchurch, and heading northwards. It's eased a fair bit down around central and south Canterbury. It is still raining, but it is easing as we go through today. So that is the good news. And you can see where we saw that small area of low pressure on the big map pushing in towards Wellington. So there's that rain and the windy weather going with it. Thanks very much to MetService. So this is the rain map for the next 12 hours, 7 o'clock Monday morning to 7 o'clock tonight. And as you can see, the areas in pink, you're getting up over 50, maybe 60 millimetres of rain still yet to come in just half a day. That on its own would be enough to make some news headlines about the risk of flooding. So that is still on top of what we've just had. But like I say, the good news, it's starting to move northwards now. That might put a bit more pressure though on some of those waterways in North Canterbury as we go through today. And that windy weather surging up and towards Cook Strait, Wellington, coastal wide and upper, might be a little bit hard to see on the scale here, but basically you're getting up around 100 kilometres an hour. Some gusts might go a bit higher than that. So pretty strong and blustery as a southerly as it goes through those areas. Now, I mentioned Auckland before. Again, we've got the radar on a rock motion, so it goes back and forth, back and forth. What you'll notice here is the different movements of these downpours. Some are moving southwards, others are moving this way, and it's because it's going around low pressure that is just around the Auckland area. So there's a fair bit of instability around the upper North Island, not just Auckland, but Waikato, Coromandel, Bay of Plenty and Northland. You've all got the risk of some downpours today, isolated ones, as that low finally starts to move on through. And before we get into the forecast, MetService warnings, there are a number of them still up and around, and watches. The symbols here, we've got wind, rain and snow in the South Island. So a great job from MetService and the team across the weekend. Thanks to them for the maps and for the radar as well. So let's take a look now at the forecast. We've got through what's been happening. Now let's try and see what is on the way. So by Tuesday, there is our big low, finally moving away from us, and actually quite quickly, considering it spent the last few days stuck over us. In 24 hours, it will go from being right over New Zealand to well out to the east, in fact, even east of the Chatham Islands. Chatham Islands will get some windy, very strong windy southeasterlies with a bit of rain in there. Some showers for the eastern North Island. You know, that's probably the biggest downside, other than the flooding, obviously, but the biggest downside as far as people who needed rain was Hawke's Bay, who didn't get it. So you get a little bit here on Tuesday, but it won't be very much. The accumulations, unfortunately for Hawke's Bay and drought, still continue on. Now, as we go to Wednesday, high pressure is out here in the Tasman, and that is going to become, once again, our new normal. It'll be coming back again this week. So Wednesday it starts to roll in. Still a bit of a southwesterly, a few showers caught up in that on the western side, but dry and sunny in the east. So that's very good news for Canterbury. It means after all this wet weather, the tap will just be switched off and you'll be back to dry again. So that is good news. It'll allow those rivers to just nicely drain away over the next 48 hours. I mean, they'll still be dangerous for a few days, but hopefully the peak is today, and then as we get into Tuesday, it starts to drop, especially as we go through the next few days by Wednesday. Now, by Thursday, the high is firmly in control over the country. Light winds, again, a couple of isolated showers in the west, but nothing much. By Thursday, we've got a new system forming, I should say the end of the week, a new system forming out here by Australia. So Friday's looking a bit wet, bit cold, in fact, around Tasmania, maybe Melbourne, as well as that southerly comes in, and more southerlies for Sydney and Brisbane. But New Zealand actually ends the week on a warmer note with nor'westers coming back out of the subtropics. Again, good news for Canterbury, mild nor'wester, exactly what you need at the end of this week, and that's what you get. And as we go into the weekend, the same story. Windy, mild, on Saturday in the South Island's eastern side. That rain over on the west coast, a little bit will spill over into Southland and Otago, but for the most part, Canterbury doesn't get it. There might be a little bit though up in the mountains, so still worthy of keeping a close eye on. And the North Island dry and mild with those northerly winds. So that is all from me. Very busy weekend. Good luck to everyone in Canterbury. I know it's certainly been a very rough weekend, and more rain today means we're not yet out of the woods. So please do keep up to date with those MetService warnings and keep up to date with our local rainfall forecasts. You can get them at weatherwatch.co.nz and ruralweather.co.nz, updated every hour for your specific location. From what I was looking, it's been pretty accurate around the Canterbury region based on some of the numbers we're seeing coming out now. But your feedback, we always enjoy it. So thanks very much for those comments we got over the weekend on accuracy. That's all from me. We'll see you again on Tuesday. And by the way, we've got our Climate Watch update then, where we're going to take a look at the month of June, because that arrives tomorrow. That's all from me for today.